Business Studies Paper 2, and this is a common test of June 2023, and this is the question paper from the province of KwaZulu-Natal. So we're going to go through the instructions that we are given. So we're going to look at instruction number 1 in particular, whereby it reads that this question paper consists of 3 sections. We have got section A, which is compulsory, and also we've got section B, which consists of 3 questions. Answer any 2 of the 3 questions in this section. Are very important that you answer only 2 out of 3. And then section C consists of 2 questions, and you answer only 1 of the 2 questions in this section. So this is what we have in terms of instructions and information. We have got other instructions and information that you can also go through. So according to the first question that we have, remember it is compulsory, and this is section A. So this is question 1. It reads that various options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. Write down the question number 1.1.1 to 1.1.5 and the correct letter next to it only. We have got example that how you are going to present it in our answer section. And then on the first question, it reads that the owners of a dash stand to lose their personal assets if the business becomes insolvent. So obviously, when the business becomes insolvent, that's when the point that a business reaches when it is closing and it stop operating. So in that case, they stand to have to settle their debts that they have. And in that case, in this scenario that we are given, the we are going to choose a business whereby the owners lose their personal assets. So if you look at the other section, we've got the private company, close corporation, partnership, and non-profit company, and we see that the correct response that we've got a partnership. Partnership is the correct response. And remember, when a business becomes insolvent in a partnership, the partners' personal assets can be taken to settle the debts that are owing. So that is what we have in terms of our first question. We go to the second question, which reads the directors of a dash company are jointly and severally liable for the debts of the company. So you see that we have got personal liability, non-profit, private, and public. And the correct response that we have there is the personal liability. We move on to 1.1.3. PM traders used a panel of experts to help solve their business problem. This is known as the dash technique. We have got Scamba, nominal group, Delphi, force field, and the correct response that we have is the Delphi technique. So we have our answer is C. We move on to 1.1.3, which reads the focus of the dash is on individual rights, where people are treated with respect and dignity. We've got right approach, a common good approach, a consequential theory, and we have got a virtue approach. So the correct response that we have is we have the correct response being uh, the right approach, and the right approach is the correct response. So we have A as the correct response. Then move on to number 5, whereby number 5 reads defined as a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or demanding circumstances. So we have got change, crisis, a problem, stress, and the correct response that we have is stress. So we have a stress as D as the correct response. So this is what we have on the multiple choice section, whereby it has a total of 10 marks. So obviously we move on to the next section that we have according to our question 1.2, complete the following statements by using the word or words in the list below, right? Only the word or words are next to the question number. So we've got different options that we are given. And then we have got the first question 1.2.1 reads Dickens Brothers Limited is a dash as the business is limited liability. So according to the responses that we have, where we have got limited liability is in a public company. So we have got the public company as the correct response. So we are saying 1 point and 2.1, we are saying public company. We'll move on to the second question, whereby it reads, Fred was given the right to use Oma's hardware trademark for a specified period of time in return for regular payments. Afraid is D. So we see what our correct response that we have. Obviously, this is A. Obviously, according to our response that we have there, we can try to see which one is the correct response. So the correct response that we have there is the franchise C, since afraid was given. So obviously, the giver becomes the franchisor, and the one that is being given is the franchisee. So we have got 1.2.2. And then we move on to the next part of our question, which is going to be 1.2.3, which says the amount of money the business owner wants for the good trade name he or she has built up, the customer base, and the branding of the product is known as. So according to uh, the responses that we have there is we have got goodwill. Goodwill becomes the correct response that we have. We move on to the next part of our question, which is 1.2.4, which says when a business reduces the number of workers in the business, this is known as, uh, obviously, this is retrenchment. And we try to see what response that we have. So we have retrenchment that we have there. So the correct response that we have is retrenchment. Moving on to the last part of our question, it reads, when people with specific skills and abilities use their knowledge in a specific job, this is called, we check according to responses given, but we see that the most appropriate that we have is professionalism. Professionalism is correct response. So this is what we have on 1.2. So 1.2 obviously also has 10 marks, each question with 2 marks with 5 questions, giving us a total of 10. So we move on to the last part of our question 1, which is on the matching words. It reads, I choose a description from column B that matches a term in column A. So on the first term that we have is a notice of incorporation. So according to the responses that we have, which can be the correct response. Remember, our responses are going from our A going down to our J. So according to responses are given, we see that the most appropriate that we have there in terms of notice of incorporation is B, includes the number of directors of the company. So we are saying B is the correct response. Then we've got limited liability. We check again which do we have, which matches limited liability according to explanations that are given. If you go down, we have got H, which says shareholders will only lose the amount of money invested in the business. So that's where we have the limitation in terms of the liability. So we have H as the correct response. So going to our 1.3.3, we've got prospectus. So in terms of prospectus, also we check which one do we have, which is obviously prospectus is a document. So we're saying a document, it contains information about the company and the shares to people interested in buying shares. So we would I as the correct response. The next one is problem solving. So we can check again according to responses are given, which one is the correct one. So problem solving involves collecting facts that include problem finding and problem shaping. So C is the correct response. Then we go to crisis. We check in terms of crisis, which one is the correct response. So if you go to F, it says in an unforeseen event that can cause major changes in the organization, it becomes a crisis. So we have F as the most appropriate response that we have. So this is what we have in terms of the last part of our question 1. And with 10 marks again, 5 questions, each with two, giving us a total of 10. So it also marks the end of section A, which is a total of 30 marks. So I will move on to the second question that we have. And we see that our second question is on business ventures. And first question reads, outline the characteristics of a partnership. And we know that a partnership is a business where we have two or more people operating a business. So the characteristics of a partnership, obviously, uh, we are going to have our characteristics like having many partners that are two or more are running the business. And also, we are going to see that these partners, they're going to share profits up at the end of the financial year. And they have to share the profits using the profit sharing ratio that they would have agreed in the partnership agreement. So we are going to see that these characteristics, we have them in our answer section. Is we have a long list that we have there. So we are just going to pick a few uh, according to the requirement of the question. Obviously, the question is got 6 marks. It obviously requires at least three. So the first one says an agreement between two or more people who combine labor, capital, resources towards a common goal. And the second one, partners combine capital and may also borrow capital from financial institutions. No legal requirements regarding the name of the business. So there are no legal requirements in terms of how you should put down your name as compared to limited liability companies, whereby we've got the where the LTD, we should be in the name. Private limited companies also, they have got their specific abbreviations that should be included, which is different from a partnership. And also partners have unlimited liability and are jointly and severely liable for the debts of the business. So this is another characteristic. So we have got other characteristics that we can also include that are also correct. So moving on to the second question that we have, it says, read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. We're given a scenario of Justice the Great Private Limited, which reads, Justice the Great Private Limited wants to convert its company's current status. They will change their name to Justice the Great Limited so that they can invite the public to buy shares in the business. Identify two forms of ownership that are applicable to justice. The great motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. So obviously we have to refer to the scenario and quote uh, the required part. So let's just try to see according to the scenario that we have. So by mere looking our scenario, we could see that we have got PTY Ltd, indicating private limited company, and also we've got Ltd, indicating public limited company. So in terms of motivation, we are going to say, we're going to give the sentence just as the great private limited company wants to convert its company's current status. That's where we got the motivation. Then in terms of the public limited company, we see that they will change their name to Justice the Great Limited, which indicates that the LTD is a public limited company. So according to other section again, this is what we have. We've got a private company whereby we're saying the motivation, Justice the Great Private Limited wants to convert their company's current status. And then we've got public company whereby we motivate by saying they will change their name to Justice the Great Limited so that they can invite the public to buy shares in the business. So this is what we have, and then we'll move on to the next part of our question, which reads, explain the advantages of the form of ownership represented by Justice and the Great Unlimited. So what are the advantages, obviously, of a public limited company? So you'd see that the advantages that we have here reads the business is its own legal identity. We are saying the owner and the business, they are two separate entities. Whatever the owner is doing doesn't have to affect the operations of the business, and the company is considered different from the owner. So this is the only legal identity that we have here. And then the second part is to raise funds for growth through the sale of shares. So obviously in a company they issue shares, which is an easy way of raising capital. Then we go to the next one. A shareholder is only liable for the amount which is invested. Shareholders have limited liability. It means in the case that the business or the company becomes insolvent, the personal assets of the owners that are the shareholders cannot be taken to settle those amounts that are being owed. So this is what we have. And then we also have the public has access to the information, and this could motivate them to buy shares from a company. Shareholders can sell or transfer their shares freely, can appoint a knowledgeable board of directors. So those are some of the advantages that we can also include. So we move on to the next part of our question 2.3, which are advise prospective entrepreneurs on the challenges of establishing a company versus other forms of ownership. So, what are the challenges of establishing a company versus other forms of ownership is our next part. So, you'll see that this is what we have in terms of other section, whereby it reads directors may not have a personal interest in the business, and this could prevent the business from gaining maximum growth and profits. So, these are the challenges that you can see in a company that the directors are the ones that are running the business, but they are not, they don't have any personal interest in the business. So it means there might be a limitation in terms of how they are going to uh, make the business a success since they do not have a personal interest. So that becomes a challenge. So we put that's the first point. And the second point, directors who do not have a personal interest in the business may not attract investors. And there may be a conflict between the owners of the company and the management in control. So if there's if there comes to a point where there is disagreements between the owner and the management, it can be a problem, and it can be also a challenge. So this is what we have. And then the more shares there is, the less profit per share. So obviously, the profit that is going to be made is going to be shared amongst the shareholders through what they call the dividends. And if we've got more shareholders, it means also we've got more owners that are going to be part of the share of the profits through dividends. And each shareholder is going to get less profit. So that's what we have on this point. A company is required to submit a full report to all stakeholders each financial year. The ease of coming up with the reports that are supposed to be presented to stakeholders can also be a challenging procedure. So these are some of the challenges that we have, and we've got a list of other challenges that we can also include according to 2.3. This is what we have, but you can see that our question is for 6 months. Obviously, it requires you at least 3 points. So this is what we have for this part. We move on to the next part of our question, which is going to be 2.4, which reads outline the advantage and disadvantage of a sole trader. Remember, a sole trader, you've got a one person that is operating a business. What are the advantages and disadvantages? For example, we can talk about advantages that are the sole trader as the only owner that is there is going to enjoy all the profits. There is no um, um, uh, situation whereby there's going to be sharing of profits since it's only one person that is operating a business. So that becomes an advantage from the point of view of the one person that is operating that business. So let's see in terms of other section what we have in terms of advantage of sole trader. The first advantages that we have is that the owner makes all decisions. So there's no a situation whereby there's going to be disagreements in terms of decision making, since the owner is the one that is going to make all decisions, and then requires little capital to start, and also all profits belong to the owner. All profits belongs to the owner is another point. A simple management structure. It has got a simple management structure as compared to big businesses, and can easily adapt to the needs of the client or customer. No legal process or requirements. So there are no legal processes or requirements that are needed to open a sole trader. So that can also be an advantage. So we have got other advantages that we have that we can also include. We can also try to go and try to see in terms of the disadvantages of a sole trader, whereby we are saying there is unlimited liability, which means that the owner is responsible for all debts incurred by the business. So it means that also the personal assets of the owner can be taken to settle the debts of the business, since there is unlimited liability. And then cash flow is often a problem in terms of a sole trader. Remember, a sole trader is a small business, and obviously cash flow is going to be a problem in such a scenario. Then we've got a growth of business can be restricted due to lack of capital. So this is the third point that we have. And then the fourth point, not a legal entity and no continuity. So the issue of continuity is always compromised in a sole trader as compared to a company, for example. So we have also other disadvantages that we can also include. Remember, our question is got 8 marks, and obviously it requires at least 4 points. So we have got 2.5, which is going to be our next question. So 2.5 reads, identify the avenues of acquiring a business illustrated by the following statements. So we can go to our first statement that we have, which is 2.5.1. For 2.5.1 reads that Duka manufacturers signed a contract with Smith's Properties for the use of their property for a specified period of time and pay them every month. I remember this is a leasing. So here we've got a leasing. And then on second part, the management of Slicer Trading requested Mari Consulting to train their new employees. So obviously they are requesting a business that is outside, and this is obviously outsourcing. So this is what we have for that part. Then go to the last part of our question, which is explain the reasons why entrepreneurs decide to purchase existing businesses. So what is the reason why entrepreneurs decide to purchase existing business? Obviously, an existing business, if it has been making profits, it's an advantage to purchase an existing business. And if it has a good image, it also an advantage to purchase that business as compared to starting a new business whereby you have to build a good image, which can be a challenging procedure. And also the issue of making profits is not a tried business, so it's a new business, so there's a risk that the business can fail. So this is what we have on this part. Yeah, the reasons why entrepreneurs may decide to purchase an existing business, whereby we're saying it's easier to raise finance if the business is a good history or image. That's one of the advantages. And then immediate cash flow is there are already established customers. Market research has already been done, and there is an established customer base. And distribution or supplier links, staff or network are already established. So this is what we have. So we have got other reasons why entrepreneurs may decide to purchase an existing business as listed beneath that. So this becomes the last part of our question two, and we obviously going to move to our next question, which is going to be our question three. So our question three is on business roles. And the first question reads outline 5 causes of stress in the business environment. So you're going to see that we've got various causes of stress in the business environment. Heavy workload can also be a cause of stress in the business environment. So with a list of them listed there, our question has got 5 marks. Obviously, it requires you to raise at least 5 points in terms of causes of stress. So moving on to other section, see that the first one is saying heavy workload and unrealistic targets and deadlines aggravated by time pressure can also cause stress. Working long hours without adequate breaks can also be a cause. Systems not properly designed and coordinated. Changes in the job description, the management, or in technology. So if you have a change in the job description, a change in the management, or in the a change in technology can also cause a stress if you cannot manage the change. The working at home and to complete tasks not done at the office is also a cause of stress. Staying abreast of the latest technology. So we have got other causes that we have. Remember, our question only needs at least 5. So we have got other causes that we have as we go down, and that can be also causes of stress. So this is we've got a long list that we have there. So moving on to the next question, it is uh, read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Baton manufacturers, which is BM. Then scenario reads, baton manufacturers, which is BM, specializes in the production of plastic containers. BM is deciding to buy a mass producing machine. The manager of BM suggests that they list the advantages and disadvantages of this purchase in order to make a decision. Then on the first part of our question, identify the problem solving technique from the scenario above. Motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. So obviously, if you check in terms of the information given, you see that this is um, the force field analysis is the problem solving technique. So by motivating it, remember the force field analysis is based on the aspect that you have to take action while the root cause has been identified. So if you go on this sentence, it reads that the manager of BM suggests that they list the advantages and disadvantages of this purchase in order to make a decision. So while you've listed the the advantages and disadvantages that's only when you can make a decision that makes a post-field analysis to be the correct response. So we are saying post-field analysis, and on motivation, we are saying the manager of BM suggested that they list the advantages and disadvantages of this purchase in order to make a decision. So this is what we have. And then we move on to the next part of our question, which says describe the application of the problems solving technique identified in question 3.2.1. What is the application of the post-field analysis? So you're going to say that on the first point in terms of its application, it reads the current situation or problem and the desired situation or solution are described. That is the application whereby the current situation or problem and the desired situation or solution are described. And then also identify what is going to happen if there is no action taken. So if there's no action taken, you identify what is going to happen. Then all the driving forces and sustaining forces that will support and resist change must be listed, and the key retaining forces and their strengths should be discussed. So moving on to our question, you see that it has got 6 marks. Obviously, it requires at least 3 points. So according to our responses, you see that we've got a long list that are applicable in terms of application of post-field analysis that we can also include as we go down. So these are other points that can also be correct that we can also include. Then I'll move on to the next part of our question, which reads, explain the meaning of the Delphi technique. So you're going to say that the meaning of the Delphi technique is that the Delphi technique is used to solve new and complex problems. The first point, and the second point, the panel of experts who never meet each other face to face comes up with creative solutions to problems without having to sit through long, drawn out group meetings. And then the panel of experts fills out a questionnaire anonymously, and we have got a continuation of the meaning of the Delphi technique that we can also include if ever we have got correct responses. But if you move back to our question, you'd see that we've got only 4 marks. So obviously, at least 2 points can be correct. So I'll go to the next part, which is saying differentiate between routine thinking and creative thinking. So you're going to see that in terms of that, we have got a table that we have in terms of routine thinking and creative thinking, whereby the first point we say routine thinking is associated with the left brain function, where the focus is on logical thought and a methodical way of doing things. And then whereas creative thinking is associated with the right brain function, where new ideas are generated. And also on other routine thinking, it is where consistent normal thinking is applied to a specific situation, whereas under creative thinking, the focus is on being creative using one's imagination, insight, and music awareness to find solutions to unique challenges. Then, on the next point, doing things in the same way will lead to the same results because past decisions are used to solve current problems, whereas under creative thinking, this process is used to come up with new ideas to solve problems in a way that is unusual and different from how things had been done before. So these are the points that we can also include. We have got another point that we can also include in terms of the differences that can be there between routine thinking and creative thinking. Then we move on to the next part of our question, which reads, explain the benefits of creative thinking in the workplace. So we'd see that the benefits that we have in terms of creative thinking is that creative thinking will lead to improved participation of staff members, which will ensure the generation of new ideas. Obviously, whenever there's creative thinking, we have got the new ideas that are coming up. And the business will have a competitive advantage over other businesses because of the unique strategies that are introduced. So due to those new ideas, we are going to have unique strategies that are going to outcompete our competitors. So that's what we have. And then the business will be able to solve complex problems. And lastly, as management and employees introduce and create main ideas, saving time and money for the business, productivity will increase. So these are the benefits of creative thinking in the workplace. We move on to the next part of our question, whereby it reads, state whether the following statements are conventional solutions or non-conventional solutions. So we have got 3.6.1 and 3.6.2. 3.6.1 reads, these solutions are creative and unique and are usually a result of creative thinking. So something that is original, obviously, is a non-conventional. So this we have got non-conventional 3.6.1. Then 3.6.2, these are solutions that are believed and followed by everyone. So whenever we are following a standard, something that is being followed by everyone, it becomes a conventional. So we've got conventional solution on 3.6.2. So this is what we have in terms of other section where we've got a non-conventional on 3.6.1, then 3.6.2, we've got conventional. So these are the responses that we have. And then on 3.7, recommend ways in which businesses can create an environment that stimulates a creative thinking. So we are going to say that ways in which businesses can create an environment that stimulates creative thinking. First point, businesses must emphasize the importance of creative thinking to ensure that all staff knows that their ideas will be heard. So if we cultivate an environment whereby it accommodates creative thinking, that's when we can only see the stimulation of creative thinking taking place. Then we have also have to inspire staff to come up with new ideas, plan regular workshops so that brainstorming sessions can be held to generate new ideas. We have got the next point, which reads, ensure that communication channels remain open by placing suggestion boxes around the workplace. So this is the next point that we have. And the next point, train staff members to think creatively, solve problems, and use mind mapping and lateral thinking. So this is what we have. Then we've got the other point that we have also, that can be a way in which businesses can create an environment that stimulates creative thinking. So moving on to the next question, which is going to be our last question, is advise businesses on the advantages of working with others to solve problems. And obviously, working with others to solve problems involves also teamwork. So, what are the advantages of that? So, if we are working with others to solve problems, so if you go to our other section, you'll see that the first point is that there are different perspectives to be considered because it could be difficult to be creative and innovative on your own. So, engaging others, obviously, we are going to have more perspectives that are going to be in play that we can uh, make as options in terms of what we need. And then we've got access to a broader base of skills, knowledge, and experiences helps if you can get the opinion of others on a matter, and then more ideas can be triggered from other employees' ideas, which can help the problem solving process. So our question has got 4 marks. Obviously, it requires at least 2 points. So we have got other points that we can also consider as correct. And remember, this is the last part that we have in terms of our question 3. So we can move on to our next question, which is our question 4. Our question 4 is on business ventures, and it reads, read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow, which reads, franchises are very popular all over the world. Many experts argue that franchises have a much greater chance of survival in the business world than individual entrepreneurs. They also warn that entering into a franchise agreement does not guarantee success. So, our first question, elaborate on the meaning of franchise, but we know that a franchise it's when you use another business model that you can use obviously for a fee. That is all the meaning of franchise. So we've got the meaning of franchise that we have according to other section, which reads, franchise refers to the purchase of a business idea. It can be a business idea, and the entrepreneur will obtain premises and the right to offer the same product or services with specific rules and regulations as per the agreement. Franchising is the practice of using another person's business model, and it can be seen both as a marketing and distribution. So these are the options that we have in terms of describing what is franchising. And then we go to 4.1.2, discuss 3 advantages of a franchise. We have got acquiring a franchise can be an expensive initial outlay. These are the disadvantages that we have of a franchise, that it involves huge amounts of money. Is our first point. And the next second point, it is sometimes difficult to sell a franchise and or to terminate the contract. And the high initial franchise costs can make it difficult to buy into the franchise agreement. So the high initial cost is associated with the franchise, and there are often restrictions in the agreement in terms of how you can run the business. So those are some of the disadvantages that we have. So going back to our question, we'd see that we've got three disadvantages that are required, and obviously we have other disadvantages that are there that can also be correct, that we can also try to go through. So this is what we have. And then we go to the next part of our question, which is explain the contractual implications of leasing as one of the business avenues. So what are the contractual implications of leasing that we have? Remember, whenever there's leasing, there's an agreement between the lessor and the lessee. And what are the contractual implications that we have? So if you see that, look at it, we have got points that we have in terms of that, where we're saying the right to occupy an asset, for example, a property. So these are the contractual implications that there is the right to occupy an asset, for example, a property, and the right to use the asset, for example, a delivery van, and the responsibility to keep the asset in good order or condition. So that can be also a very challenging implication, whereby you're saying you should make sure that the asset that you're using is in good order or condition as a lessee, and also the responsibility of paying fees or rent on time. And we have what other that we can also include. So this is what we have in terms of 4.2. We move on to 4.3, differentiate between private company and public company. So remember, in terms of public company, obviously the shares are obviously issued publicly, which is different from a private company. So we look in terms of the difference that we have between the two, whereby we have them articulated in a table form where we've got a column for private company and a column for a public company. So in terms of that, now we can see that uh, other private company we are saying may not offer shares to the general public, and then other public company trades its shares publicly on the Johannesburg Security Exchange, and then name must end with proprietary limited, which is PTY Ltd. Other private company, the other public company name must end with limited, which is Ltd. So and also financial statement must be independently reviewed but they need to be audited. So this is private company, and then under public company, annual financial statements need to be audited. This is what we have. So we refer back to our question. We see that our question has got 4 marks. Obviously, it requires two differences, which we have already raised. We have got other differences that we can include according to the table that we have that are also correct. Then we move on to the next part of our question, which reads, outline the aspects that must be included in the prospectus. Prospectus, obviously, is the document that is there when a business starts to operate. So, what are the aspects that must be included in the prospectus, which should have the name of the company, company overview, including the vision, mission, and goals of the business, which is the strategy of the company should be there in the prospectus. And then we've got the product or service portfolio, market analysis and strategy. We've got a management team, the risk and potential of the business, available financial and share information. So these are some of the aspects that we can also include in a prospectus. We see that our question has got a 4 marks. Obviously, it requires at least 2 points. Then we've got our business roles. That is the second part, whereby it reads outline in 3 internal causes of change. Remember, a change is a fierce animal. Whenever there is change, there is going to be the issue of anxiety among the parties that are there. So, what are the internal causes that can be there in the business of change? So we have them also listed in our answer section, whereby we are saying on the first part, new business objectives or goals. We are going to see that there will be new business objectives or goals when there is change. High employee turnover, where many employees must join the business, can also be a cause. A new policies and procedures implemented in the business, new management, obviously restructuring, retrenchment, new equipment can be other internal causes of change. So this is what we have in terms of 4.5. Then we go to the next part now, which is going to be the 4.6, which says read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. So we have got a scenario that we have that we need to go through. So in the scenario, it is a scenario of Dumela Manufacturers, which is DM, which reads, Dumela Manufacturers, DM, is a company that specializes in manufacturing kid clothing. DM experienced a fire outbreak that destroyed half of their property. This resulted in DM being temporarily closed due to the unconducive working conditions. So on 4.6.1, it reads, identify an example of a crisis from the scenario above. Motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. So we need to identify where do we have a crisis according to the scenario that we have. So if you come to this sentence, it reads a DM experienced a fire outbreak that destroyed half of their property. So we have loss of property due to fire as the crisis. And then on motivation, we are going to just mention the sentence that we have here as a motivation. So this is what we have got in the answer section where we're saying loss of property due to fire is the crisis. And then on motivation, DM experienced a fire outbreak that destroyed half of their property. Then we move on to the next part of our question, which is 4.6.2. Suggest ways in which businesses can deal with crisis in workplaces. So what are the ways in which businesses can deal with crisis? They should assess and evaluate the nature of the crisis is one way. Then the other ways we have them are also listed in our answer section, whereby we are saying the crisis happens, the affected department or person should respond to the situation in a calm manner and determine the nature and cause of the crisis in order to plan an appropriate response. So obviously, the department affected or the people affected should respond to the situation in a calm manner and determine the nature and cause of the crisis. So that's what we have on the second point that we have. Then we move on to the next point, which is saying, if necessary, seek advice from experts. They can also be a good procedure. And then also manage the seriousness of the situation by responding to the situation immediately. And then ensure that accurate and correct information is provided when managing the situation or crisis. So we have also other points that can be correct that are mentioned that we have here. So if we move on back to our question, you'd see that our question is got in terms of number of marks, it's got 4 marks. Obviously, it requires at least 2 points. Then we've got 4.7. Explain the following major changes that businesses and people deal with. Unemployment is a major change. So how can business and people deal with? So this is what we have in terms of 4.7.1. So in terms of unemployment, we are saying this occurs when employees lose their jobs due to resigning for a better position, uh, or being fired, or choosing to stop working. So we have got also the second point, which says changes that take place in the business may lead to unemployment due to retrenchment or when business is closed down. Uh, and then many people who are unemployed struggle to cope, and this may lead to illness and depression. So these are some of the points that we can include. Unemployment. Then we have also globalization. Due to the narrowing of global markets, businesses can trade in different countries. So this is what we have. And then we've got this requires flexibility in order to adapt to changes brought about by globalization. With improved ongoing technological processes, new technology must be combined and used to make processes more efficient. So these are some of the points that we can also include. So this is what we have in terms of the question that is our question 4.7.2.